Hello, students, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that is absolutely crucial for your Class 10 board exams. I'm talking about quadratic equations. Now, I know they can look a bit tricky at first, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll be solving them like a pro. So, here's a quick look at our game plan. We'll start with what a quadratic equation even is, then we'll dive into two super useful methods to solve them. And to wrap it up, I've got some key strategies just for your exams. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, first things first. What in the world is a quadratic equation? You know, understanding this is the key that unlocks everything else. So, what is a quadratic equation? I know, the name sounds a bit fancy, right? But don't worry, the main idea behind it is actually super straightforward. Let's break it down. So, think about it like this. You've already worked with linear equations, right? Where the highest power of x is just 1. Well, a quadratic equation is just the next step up. It's any equation where the highest power of the variable is exactly 2. That little x squared term, that's the hero of our story today. That's what makes it quadratic. Now, this right here, this is the standard form, and you've got to know it. It's like the proper dress code for every quadratic equation. You always want to get your equation looking exactly like this before you start. And see that part where a can't be 0? That's super important. Why? Well, if a was 0, that whole x squared term would disappear, and poof, it's not a quadratic equation anymore, is it? Okay, so your first skill to master is spotting a, b, and c. Let's look at a few examples. In the first one, it's pretty clear. A is 2, b is 3, and c is -5. But what about the second one? See how there's no x term in the middle? That just means b is 0. Same for the last one, where c is 0. And please be careful with those negative signs. They're tiny, but they make a huge difference. All right, now for the fun part, solving these things. Our first tool is called the factorization method. I like to think of it as being a detective. You're looking for clues to break the equation down into smaller pieces. And when it works, it's seriously fast. This method has a popular nickname, splitting the middle term, and it's basically a 5-step recipe. You just follow the steps. Now, I'll be honest, step 2 can be a little tricky. It's all about finding these two magic numbers. But don't worry, let's see how it works with a real example. Okay, let's solve one together. If you've got a notebook handy, try this out with me. It's the best way to learn. Ready? Here's the equation we're going to crack. Okay, step 1 is super simple. We just multiply a and c. In our equation, a is 2 and c is 3. So 2 times 3 gives us 6. Easy enough, right? All right, here comes that magic numbers step. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to get our AC product, which was 6, and add up to our B value, which is 7. What could they be? Think about it. Yep, it's 1 and 6. Perfect. So now we rewrite our equation, but instead of 7x, we're going to write 1x plus 6x. Okay, pay close attention to this next move. It's called factoring by grouping. We'll look at the first two terms, 2x squared plus 1x. What's common between them? Just an x, right? Now look at the next two, 6x plus 3. What can we pull out of there? A 3. So let's pull those common factors out in front. And would you look at that? This is the cool part. See how the stuff inside the brackets is exactly the same? We've got 2x plus 1 in both places. That's our new common factor. So we can just pull that whole thing out, and what's left over? The x and the plus 3. Beautiful. We are so close. Look, we have two things in brackets being multiplied together to equal 0. Now, the only way that can happen in math is if one of those things is 0. So we just take each bracket, set it equal to 0, and solve. And just like that, we have our two solutions, or roots as we call them. Hey, you just solved a quadratic equation using factorization. Awesome job. So, factorization is great, it's fast, but what if you're staring at an equation and you just can't find those magic numbers? It happens. Well, don't panic. We have another tool, a kind of master key that can unlock any quadratic equation. It's called the quadratic formula. And there it is. Okay, I know it looks a little intimidating with all the letters and the square root sign, but this formula is your best friend. You absolutely 100% need to memorize this. It is a lifesaver in exams, for sure. Let's put this formula to the test with a new problem. So just like before, what's the very first step? You got it. We need to identify our a, b, and c. So for this equation, what do we have? Well, a is 1, b is 5, and c is 6. All right, now all we have to do is carefully substitute these numbers into the formula. I'm going to say this again. Be so careful here, especially if you have any negative numbers. One little slip with the minus sign can throw the whole thing off. Okay, next up, let's clean up what's happening inside that square root. That part, by the way, the b squared minus 4ac, it actually has a special name. It's called the discriminant. So here, we get 5 squared, which is 25, minus 4 times 1 times 6, which is 24. So 25 minus 24 is just 1. We're left with the square root of 1. That's nice and easy. Now see that plus or minus sign? That's the key. That little symbol is telling us that we're actually going to get 2 different answers here. We have to do the calculation once with a plus, and then do it all over again with a minus. So let's get our 2 solutions. For the first one, let's use the plus. Minus 5 plus 1 is minus 4. Divide that by 2, and we get minus 2. There's our first root. Now for the second one, we use the minus. Minus 5 minus 1 is minus 6. Divide that by 2, and we get minus 3. And there you have it, our 2 solutions. See, the formula never fails. Okay, so now you have 2 powerful methods in your toolbox. The big question is, when you're in an exam, which one should you choose? Let's talk about a smart strategy. Here are the most important takeaways for your exam. Number 1, always get the equation into that standard form first. Number 2, give factorization a quick try, maybe for like 30 seconds. If you spot the factors, great, it's usually faster. But if you're stuck, don't waste time. Just switch straight to the quadratic formula. Think of it as your guaranteed backup plan. And my biggest tip, double check your signs. A silly mistake with a negative is the #1 reason students lose marks here. You might want to pause and take a quick picture of this slide. So, after all that, which method do you think you like more? There's no right answer, really. The best one is whichever one you feel most comfortable with. The most important thing you can do now is practice, practice, practice. Every single problem you solve just makes you stronger and more confident. You did a great job today. Keep it up.